Well, thank you so much, Malcolm, for joining us. And maybe we can start by introducing yourself and tell us what you do and how is your work also related to the evaluation field. And also to hear about some of your prior expectations about this particular workshop on quantitative impact evaluation. So please go ahead.
So good afternoon. My name is Malcolm Cox. I'm a senior evaluator at the Council of Europe, and I'm working on evaluations across the organization on different topics in the way that the Council of Europe works, which involves a number of different approaches, monitoring and human rights scrutiny from the point of view of the court, but also technical assistance through projects in member states of the Council of Europe and in countries beyond the Council of Europe. So I was particularly interested in this course on quantitative impact evaluation because there's a need to ensure that the approaches and techniques we use within our evaluation are as advanced as possible, as cutting edge. And these are elements which maybe not always directly applicable to the kind of work we do. Nonetheless, it's important to see where we can adopt techniques and approaches and therefore strengthen the evaluation work we do at the Council of Europe.
Thank you so much, Malcolm. Tell us, why IPDET? I mean, have you attended an IPDET workshop before, either on-site or online?
This was the first time that I've attended an IPDET training. But IPDET is well known amongst colleagues within the evaluation division of the Council of Europe. So it was really on word of mouth and peer-to-peer recommendation that it's a good source, both from the point of view of the theoretical aspects of evaluation, but also because it provides access to this network of evaluators, and that the peers with which the training had been done by other colleagues of mine were very helpful and useful in that learning process.
Thank you. Can you tell us maybe, I know this was the last session of the workshop, so you actually concluded successfully, and maybe you can share with us a bit about, what is your overall impression of the content of this workshop?
So that the real objective for me to take this particular course was really to go a little bit deeper and into an understanding of impact evaluation. The call for impact evaluation is quite strong among different stakeholders in the Council of Europe, and it's important to find ways to strengthen these techniques or this approach within the evaluation that we already do. So really it was a way to, I suppose, get an introduction into some of the more rigorous techniques, which I think are perhaps more appropriate actually outside the Council of Europe context, more in a development context. We're not per se a development organization. Our technical assistance can be considered as cooperation development, but it's not global South development in that same sense. So my expectations were really to try to find ways that maybe replicability, and there's a word that we were using during the week, of these techniques within our own evaluation approaches. And I was really pleased actually to see this. There wasn't an insistence on the experimental form, but that we went into quasi-experimental, and it was very useful to see ways that you can adapt the approach to fit the context and the complexities and the difficulties with a very strictly scientific evaluation approach that you can take. So that's really what I took away from the course.
Oh, that's very nice. And also regarding the workshop, as the workshop went on and on, do you think that the topic was, or the topics covered were being more difficult, or they were being also, friendlier to the participants? Because sometimes I get the impression that many are interested in this topic or in taking part in this workshop, but they don't, they don't feel like confident in doing so. How was your experience with that?
No, I think it's very difficult to feel confident in this matter because it's very specialized. to some degree, probably more specialized than typical day-to-day work that I personally do in evaluation. So it didn't feel that it got less complicated, but it also felt that it was quite complicated from the very beginning. So we were kind of eased into the process, although it was only towards the end of the course that we really tried to handle a very statistically and specialized research. And I appreciated the attempt to reassure us, but I think that there's always a need. I wouldn't feel necessarily confident myself to adopt these techniques. I would have to find ways to recruit more specialist evaluators on these topics, but it gave the confidence to handle that, to be able to manage that in a future evaluation that we carry out.
Thank you. And I know this is, like you said, this is maybe a more specialized workshop, but how did you feel, attending this sort of workshop online, on the online format? I mean, is it more difficult to follow? How do you feel like, in general, the group work and the delivery, the content per se? Do you think it was also like a good experience to attending and such an online workshop format, sort of saying?
I think there's pros and cons to the online environment, and so I appreciated what I felt were the advantages of that. I think for brainstorming exercises and those kind of things, it's actually can be more structured online than it can be offline, and that can be helpful to really get the most out of the interactive working group sessions that we have online. But I also, of course, really regret that it undoubtedly inhibited the interaction we could have with the other participants, and to meet in person and to explore a little bit more relaxed style would also, I think, have been helpful. But of course, with the online, the longer that you do it and the more time you spend together, I think you can start feeling more and more comfortable with that. So, and that's how I felt towards the end of the course. Let's say it like that.
Okay. And, after doing also group work and after also sharing your experience and hearing from other participants' experience, and all the things that you learned throughout the delivery of the workshop, does the entire content and the workshop per se, did this meet your expectations, and do you think you have something like valuable to take with you? Do you think you will be able to apply all that you learned for your current work, in your current work?
Yes, I was just talking about the online environment potentially reducing an interaction or reducing the extent that you can engage. But personally, I was able to raise the very specific questions I had for this from the context where I felt it differed from maybe where a typical development evaluation. So I really appreciated getting a number of people's views on what impact evaluation could mean from a human rights treaty kind of perspective, and that's very important. What I can take away from that is that there are ways that I can enter into a discussion. I can begin the analysis across the organization of how to optimize the evaluations that we're carrying out, bringing in some of these elements where it's possible, and it really perhaps even exceeded my expectations because it made me feel confident that there are ways to introduce mixed methods. And that was, I guess, a key message I took away from this was that the mixed method really is valuable. And even where you'd think it was a very concrete experimental context, it's nonetheless important to have this mixed method. So that really helped me strengthen my opinion or view and potentially my argumentation to combine the different techniques in the evaluations that we do.
That's also really nice to hear that this succeeded your expectations. And after hearing this, and since this is your first time taking part in IPDET, would you consider, attending upcoming IPDET training offers, maybe on-site or once again online?
I would, having said what I felt I missed was this interaction in the physical sense. I think an on-site training would be extremely useful, and I would be prepared so I would prepare myself to take more questions that I have, which are really focused on my area of work and the area of work we carry out in evaluation in the Council of Europe. And I think that's a very useful sounding board. So I would, on a personal level, be very interested in attending further training, but I think also from a professional point of view and for the organization, it would be very useful for me to be able to attend more. So I will absolutely look at future training offers and consider if it's something I'll be able to attend, hoping that indeed it is something I'll be able to attend.
Yeah, that would be great. And one last thing, maybe you have something else to share with us, or to give a message to other evaluators, to other colleagues that maybe are not like I said, are not very confident in taking part in a workshop on quantitative impact evaluation, or something that you would like to add up to all this conversation we had.
Sure, I think that sharing our different experiences and our different perspectives is really very valuable from this point of view of developing further and enhancing evaluation globally in our many different contexts. And everybody that I've spoken to during this training has brought their own view and their own perspective, and that's, I think, very, very critical to future developments and to really finding optimizing the way that we can improve evaluation in our own respective contexts, but also collectively. So that's really something I got out of the training.
Excellent. Malcolm, thank you so much for taking part in this activity. I wish you all the best in your future endeavors, and we are looking forward to welcoming you in IPDET next year on site.
Superb. Thank you so much, and thank you for all your work this week. It was really appreciated. I think it did indeed go very smoothly, and that's thanks to the facilitating and the facilitator who's kind of in the background. So thank you so much, Sarah, and well done. Good job.
Thank you so much, Malcolm, and we will see you, and all the best.
Great. Take care.